Good afternoon and welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. You know, if I didn't know any better, I'd swear there's a competition among the basket of biased press to see who can destroy their credibility faster by demonstrating their love and devotion to the socialists in the Democrat Party and their agenda of destroying the land of the free and home of the brave. CBS, all the news that was relevant 2 years ago. That's our focus in today's preamble. Before we get to CBS, a network that hires anti-gun nuts to wet themselves on the anchor desk at the prospect of Americans defending themselves with firearms, let's broaden the scope. In truth, the vast majority of those who identify as journalists are Democrats. Some are socialists. They all hate conservatives and people of faith. And nearly all are enemies of the Constitution and the rule of law when those things get in the way of absolute government control and the Democrats ruling our lives. Aside from news updates, this show stayed away from commenting on the horrific Colorado shooting over the weekend. Crazed 22-year-old lunatic busted into a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, shooting and killing 5 people. The reason we didn't provide commentary was because the details of the shooting are not yet known. But that doesn't stop the biased press. Without any facts or evidence, they assume the killer was motivated by hatred of gays.
Well, what we know, it has the trappings of a hate crime, given who the victims were, the club. On the surface, it certainly has the trappings of a hate crime.
The GOP mayor of Colorado Springs wasn't helping by prefacing his statement and closing his statement on that shooting by accepting the narrative over news adopted by leftists in the press. Here's what the good mayor should have led with and stuck to.
I think it is premature to, be definitive about motivations because it's an ongoing investigation. Search warrants were done yesterday. That evidence is being compiled. Obviously his social media contacts are being scrubbed, and we're going to see what kinds of statements he's made to other people, what kind of evidence is found in his home.
The fact is, we don't know the motivations behind the senseless shooting at that gay nightclub. But that doesn't stop the folks over at MSNBS from immediately blaming their political opposition, those who object to the indoctrination being pushed by the left, the LGBTQ ABCDEFG cultural Marxism agenda. Here is NBC senior reporter, yes, a reporter, not a guest. He speaks for NBC News. He suggests that folks who object to transvestite story hours or so-called family-friendly transvestite shows are responsible for that violence, and that these drag shows are not hypersexualized.
Also, hours before what they called an all-ages drag brunch, which is probably the #1 target of these anti-LGBTQ events recently. Like, for example, the Proud Boys will go and protest any drag brunch, any drag story hour, anything that a child might go to meet a drag queen, not, just to show them that they're human beings and people. They go there and they read Dr. Seuss there. They read regular books, but it's read by a drag queen, and they have breakfast. It is not some hypersexual event.
Okay. Is that the official position of NBC News, that these transvestite shows are not hypersexualized? Well, let's see if NBC is reporting fact or narrative. Here on the Chris Salcedo Show, an opinion program, we've been showing footage from these transvestite shows. In many of these shows, the transvestite men dressed as scantily clad women can be seen dancing in highly inappropriate and, yes, sexually suggestive routines. In one video, a small child is seen stroking the material on a Little Mermaid costume being worn by a biological male right in his crotch area. In another video, filmed by the Blaze TV's Sarah Gonzalez, we see a transvestite lifting his skirt and gyrating while lip-syncing lyrics to the song entitled, well, the P word, which is synonymous with female genitalia, as a confused child looks on from a nearby table. This isn't hypersexualized, according to NBC News' Ben Collins. We reached out to NBC to see if their senior reporter's comments meet with that company's standards, such as they are. We've not heard back. But the drumbeat at the NBC properties continued.
People that we were talking to since April about this, that were the subject of this, they were saying repeatedly, we're waiting for an instance of real world violence where people are going to get killed.
And here it is. And we've also seen, and there was a lot of conversation about this, the Denver Post covered it, about drag shows being targeted. What is going on with that?
Yeah, because they targeted drag shows a lot, and in part because Drag Time Story Hour, where a drag queen would come, it was ubiquitous in libraries all over the country, had it. A drag queen would come read a story. It was fun. The kids loved it.
Chris Jansing there, assuming with no evidence that this was an attack on gays by, right-wingers. She's pushing a narrative, not news. Jansing's guest alleging that kids love Transvestite Story Hour and that it's the fault of you parents out there. If you object to the left wing bringing your kids to a drag show, it's you who has the problem and you who are promoting this violence. Again, we don't know the motivations of the Colorado shooter, but we do know that police are investigating whether the accused gunman is the same person who was charged with felony menacing and kidnapping after his mother reported he threatened her with a homemade bomb and other weapons in 2021. According to local reports, prosecutors did not pursue any charges. The records in the case have been sealed. But instead of reporting what we do know, NBC and other biased press folks keep on pushing their narrative over news. They've been down this road before and still haven't learned their lesson. You guys remember 2016? Another shooting at a gay bar took place. This was in Florida at the Pulse nightclub. And like today, the untrustworthy, anti-conservative, biased, and unfair press tried to blame the right wing. But then the facts came in. And it turned out the shooter was a radicalized Islamic fundamentalist terrorist, another protected class in the eyes of the left-wing media, because much of the left-wing media has common cause with jihadists, the destruction of Western freedom. Folks, once we knew the facts, once they were known, you've never seen the biased press turn on a dime like they did back then. I guess the most recent example of this is when NBC and other biased news outlets dropped the Paul Pelosi story like a hot potato after some inconvenient facts destroyed the narrative that right-wing rhetoric was the cause of the attack. Heck, NBC News even suspended one of their reporters for putting out news over narrative. But back when the Pulse nightclub was revealed to be an attack from an Islamic terrorist, NBC and others changed their narrative to, we're going to blame the gun. In reaction to the conduct of the majority of the press, the gay community cried foul, and in a move that likely caused certain CBS news anchors to lose control of their bladder, gay Americans armed themselves, because your liberty-loving Latino can guarantee that the victims of the Pulse nightclub or the Colorado gay nightclub weren't praying for another vapid, vacuous, and hysterical anti-gun screed from CBS's Margaret Brennan. They were all hoping for a firearm to defend themselves, their friends, and their community from a whacked-out criminal enabled by permissive left-wingers. Speaking of CBS, I can't verify this, but I think they might be rolling out a new slogan. Tune into CBS News for all the news that was important 2 years ago. I don't know if it's going to catch on, but it certainly reflects the competence and journalistic integrity and prowess of CBS. That so-called news organization finally got around to admitting that the Hunter Biden laptop is real. Now, before I play the clip, I don't want my words to be construed in any way as a slam on Catherine Herridge. She is the best journalist CBS has, well, actually because she's a real journalist, not a left-wing propagandist. I'm confident that she had verified this story 1 year and 11 months ago. But I'm reasonably sure that CBS honchos, in the vein of NBC, prevented real journalism from occurring when it would have mattered in the 2020 election cycle. Look at what happened to Cheryl Atkinson. She was fired from CBS because she thought it'd be a good idea to report fairly on the Obama regime. CBS couldn't tolerate news over narrative when it came to Obama, so I suspect that Catherine was told to hold off until Democrats were firmly in control and had done max damage to the country before reporting on how the USA is likely being run now by a man who has sold us out to our enemies.
The 10 held by H for the big guy is shorthand for 10% held by Hunter for his father. After the email became public in 2020, the author of the email told the Wall Street Journal Joe Biden was not involved. The author has not responded to CBS News' questions. Mr. Biden has consistently denied knowledge of his son's work or financially benefiting from it.
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business.
But wait. We know that Biden's denial about never talking to Hunter about his business dealings is a lie. A voicemail from the laptop referenced a New York Times story that ever so gently suggested that Hunter's overseas dealings were suspect. Joe Biden's voicemail said, quote, "Hey, pal, it's Dad. It's 8:15 on a Wednesday night. If you get a chance, just give me a call. Nothing urgent. I just want to talk to you. I thought the article released online, it's going to be printed tomorrow in the Times. It was good. I think you're clear," end quote. That soundbite never made it into the CBS reporting. They couldn't allow confirmation that Joe Biden is a liar. Why? That might harm CBS's favorite political party, the Democrats. Folks, the lion's share of the press isn't fair. They aren't neutral players. They aren't calling balls and strikes. They don't even love this country and the document that gives them the right to do their jobs, the U.S. Constitution. The biased press are committed left-wingers who lie to their audiences every day, presenting narrative over news. That's why this show is superior to anything that is being done on most other networks. We are honest and upfront with our audience. We give you the facts as we know them, and we give you our conservative opinion on those facts. The majority of the press presents left-wing opinions, and they lie and call it news, even 2 years after it's news.